spicy food. I like spicy food.
That's funny. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right.
Hold on 1 second before we get started.
I love the background. Is that San Francisco? What is that? What
That
bridge
looks
is
like
that?
San Francisco bridge.
That's what it looks like.
Oh, I don't even know. They just gave me a random back. I'm just sitting on my couch.
All right,
I thought I would have my own. This is great.
All right.
We on Sistahship. Come with us. We on Sistahship. Yeah, we on
We on a
Sistahship.
Sistahship.
Roll with us. We
We
on
on a
Sistahship.
Sistahship.
Sistahship, we got it. Now come on, let's talk about it. Sistahship, we got it. Now come on, let's talk about it. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about me. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that.
Call them out about they wanted me.
We're my sisters, we got this sisters. You roll with me and I roll with ya. We're my sisters, we got this sisters. You roll with me and I roll with ya. Substance, oh, sisters, you know we on a mission, no change. Help each other get over some things, build strength, bring change.
Right there, no more.
Now it's time to shine like rain. Let's talk about life, skills, and my quality, the right wills. We rolling out of
The phone book, the pink one.
skills. So we become the prodigy of power. Sistahship could be a really hot commodity. Stand together, we united, hold hands. Support each other's dreams and our plans, knowing everything we can. Just to show we understand the power of a friendship, fam. Live life on purpose. You know, together we can learn. Yeah,
I got
Uh-oh.
Mississippi here.
and we here for each other.
Oh boy.
They call it network.
I'm ready.
That's for sure and for certain. Yeah,
We on a Sistahship.
come with us. We on a Sistahship. Yeah, we on a Sistahship. Roll with us. We on a Sistahship. We're my sisters. We got this sisters. You roll with me and I roll with ya. We're my sisters. We got this sisters. You roll with me and I roll with ya. Sistahship. We got it. Now come on. Let's talk about. Let's talk about Sistahship. We got it. Let's talk about this, let's talk about that, let's talk about faith, let's talk about facts, let's talk about fear, let's talk about
I'll be free after 3:30.
On the Sistahship.
I'll be finished with
We on a
this at 3:30.
Sistahship.
You got it.
Sistahship. Hello, everybody. Hi, ladies.
Hello.
Hello. Come on in, ladies. Come on in to our viewers and to our chat room. I am your Queen of Bling. This is the Sistahship Talk Show, and we are here talking about our real MVPs today. Today is going to be all about the MVPs, the women in sports, the women beside the players. We are so excited about today's show. I want to welcome everyone on. I want to welcome our lovely Lady Wisdom, our Hillside. We have Michelle, who's going to be talking about her son, who is currently playing at Rutgers. We'll get a little more information on that. We have Miss Spicy available. Our TiffanyCo-Bling, who is behind the scenes right now, getting us all set up. And we have Jessica Mungro, who is the wife of a retired NFL player playing for the Indianapolis Colts. I am so, again, excited about the show. This is going to give us a great insights into what it takes as those who are the women beside the players to manage their careers, their passions, everything that it takes from a mother to a wife. So I'm really excited about the show today, and I want to welcome everyone on to the show. Hi, everybody. Hi, ladies. Are you guys excited about today?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Oh, we've got a lot to talk about, don't we? And I think we could roll into 2 shows on this subject because there's so much more that we could probably get. But I just want to introduce everyone. I want to welcome everyone on. How are you all doing today? It's Super Bowl Sunday. What's the plans?
Football.
Football.
Football and food.
Football and food.
Absolutely.
Football and food. Football and food. That's what I'm talking about. Pizza and wings. That's what I'm doing today. That's kind of where we're going. So let's talk about this for a second. I want the mother and wife, because again, they are our MVPs beside the players. I want to introduce both Jessica and Michelle. And if you guys can give our viewers, just a little insights about you, who you are, kind of who you're representing as far as this show is concerned. And we'd love to get a little more about you. So we'll start with Mom, Michelle.
Hey guys, I am Michelle Matthews. I am a mom to Christian Izien, who is now a sophomore player, a sophomore venture at Rutgers University. He's been playing now, this is his third year on the team. And, it's been exciting, to watch him grow from high school to becoming a college player and, being on the big screen, the Big Ten, it has been exciting. So, there's lots to talk about on the journey to get there, but right now we're just enjoying it right now while we're here.
Okay, great. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard to the
Thank you
Sistahship.
for having me.
Jessica.
Yeah, I guess I sort of pick up where you left off. I met James when we were both undergrads in college. So when he was playing football at Syracuse, and then, eventually moved out to Indianapolis and throughout his professional career, and still in sort of the transition into and the transition out of both. So, we have one son together. That has been a fantastic ride too. So it's been a really exciting road in terms of watching him progress through college, into the league, out of the league, and sort of seeing all the different roles that he's taken on. So yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. We are excited to have you guys, ladies. It is, I can't even imagine as women beside the players, what you all go through and how you manage through all the, ins and outs, all the, again, your careers, your own passions, your children, just your lifestyle, your career, and how you support the men beside you that, obviously have a passion for the sport. There's all athletes, not just football. Obviously, we're here talking about football. It is Super Bowl Sunday. So great segue into this discussion. So I want to level set, because from a viewer aspect, I think it's important for even families that are trying to bring their children into sports and who have a passion to be an athlete, regardless of what they roll into, right? What does it take? What does it take from and I'll talk to Michelle in relation to, as a mother, what are some of the things that you have encountered, or, what's your journey like as it relates to your child being an athlete and evolving into the college arena and going from there? But, let's start from the beginning. How did it all evolve, and then how do we progress from there?
It starts in youth football. That's where it starts. Initially, it started at home. He just loved playing football. He enjoyed watching football. He kind of understood it from a very young age. He started around 2. It's really basically as soon as he could run and hold the ball, he just enjoyed it and he really loved it. But we saw something in him from young. Like when he was about 5, 6, he actually understood football, which is difficult because you just think you're just running around with football, and you're going, yard to yard, but it's a lot more complicated than that. You have to actually understand what the players are doing, what the coaches are saying, and he understood that from very young. So by the time we got him to youth football at 6, they were like, oh, he's a little small, bring him back again next year. So we brought him back at 7. Because he was a little small. So we brought him back at 7, and they saw immediately that, he was fast, he picked up well, he understood the game. So immediately he became, one of the players that they, that locked in on, and they knew that they could count on him, when it came to playing and winning and understanding and actually teaching his other teammates, the game, you know, a little bit, so to say, you know, because they're little, they don't know, they're just running around, you know, kids don't really know much at that age. You know, it's not until they get, you know, about 9 or 10 or 11 really is when it starts to click for them. And they realize like, yeah, this is fun and I like this and I'm good at it, you know, and then they get to, you know, that end of youth football and they decide, do I want to continue playing football into high school? You know, because it's fun when you're a kid playing football, but the commitment becomes different when you get to high school. You know, it's a whole different level, you know, so now you're taking, you know, what you learned in youth and you're transferring this into the high school level and you're dealing with coaches who like to win. You know, they're not there for fun and games. You know, it's fun when you're as a youth and, you know, you win a game and you win a championship where, you know, it looks fun and you're having a great time and everybody's cheering you on and saying, yeah, you're great. You know, but when you get to high school, you know, everybody's great, just like you, and the coaches aren't, you know, singling you out. So it becomes now, is this something that I really want to do?
Now,
You
as a
know,
mom,
because
did you
football gets
already-
harder.
right? Did you know?
Yeah, it gets harder.
about sports? Yeah, so I apologize.
I'm
Did you
sorry.
know anything about
I'm sorry.
sports before your child got into and knew that he wanted to be an athlete? Were you aware of, you know, were you a football fan at that point in time, or
Oh, yeah.
into sports?
Oh, definitely. I was always a fan of football. My oldest son, before the middle one that I'm just talking about today, Christian, my oldest son played as well. My cousins played. So, you know, my family was already in football, you know, and as a fan myself, as a girl, literally, I was always a football fan. So, you know, you have boyfriends, you grow up, everybody has a, you know, you get into football very young as a girl. So, you know, having boys, it was just immediate, like, okay, hey, I might have some talent laying around here. Let me get them into football.
That's good to know.
It was just kind of like a natural thing to get them into football and to have them into football. And then you start to understand that it becomes more than just football. It becomes family. It becomes, you know, a way of living, so to say, because, you know, you got to worry about your grades and school and, you know, what you're doing in the community, because now you got to do community service. And there's so many other aspects to football than most people just think you're just playing a game. It's bigger than just a game. There's a lot more involved, you know, so, you know, the aspect of getting them in young and getting them focused early, that was just a, you know, a given.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am a parent of, my daughter was, my children are athletics. They're still athletic, but they played sports. I had one that went on to collegiate ball, but they played basketball. But this is just a general statement. So like you said, during the coaching and the game, and you see they got the skill and they got the passion, you also have the coaches that put pressure on you. They take losses personal, the pressure that is put on these men and males and females, because females, I know some female players that play football actually. So
one is today. One is playing today. She's a
we
kicker.
also have one of the refs is a female today, I believe.
Yes, yes.
Two of them, two coaches
Two of
that
them.
are female. Yes.
But
Oh, wow. We got a lot first.
I
Yeah.
realized that,
Yep.
and it's kind of like a question, because my oldest daughter got to her senior year. They told her they just wanted her to play the season out, and then she could have went anywhere in the world. They would have paid for school. But my daughter kept saying it's no longer fun. It's no longer fun. The coaches took the fun out of the game. The pressure of every time there was a loss, it was her fault that they lost. But whenever there was a win, it was the team win. And it broke her spirit to the point where she didn't want to play no more. And you know, like she ended up paying for college. But at the point is, what do you find with the coaching? How do you find the coaching to fit into it? Do you find, because we talking two levels, we talking collegiate ball with Michelle, and then we were talking actually NFL pro level with Jessica. So how do you guys find the coaching to be on both levels? And
I could speak from the college aspect of it. It's a lot of pressure, you know, mentally as well as physically, but mostly mentally. because the physical part, either you can or you can't. That's just, the body, but the mind is something different. And the pressure is extremely difficult. I guess the higher you play and where you play at, because if you're playing in the Power 5 schools, which are any of those big programs across the country, the pressure is extremely high. The coaches are on you to perform well. They're on you to play well, and mentally it's a lot because you still have to deal with school. Some kids may have family problems and other issues that are outside of football, so, you have to have a strong will to want to play at this level, as well as further on. And Jessica can speak to that. But
yeah, I was even, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think, it's stressful, and the higher you get, the more it will, I guess, become.
Yeah, I was thinking about what you were saying about it feeling like it became much more competitive and there was much more commitment involved. And I think that sort of aligns with what you were asking, Sherry, about about coaching, because I think you're right. There's a lot more pressure on players. It's very competitive. And I think the further up you go, you're right, that's still present. The one thing I will say that it does seem like coaches, and again, this is just from sort of my experience, but it seems like the coach sort of sets a tone in some ways. I think because James, I guess in my understanding of his experience, I think he had some really great coaching, especially in the league, where there was a certain tone set for the team. And I think that does make a difference. I think regardless of what level, whether you're talking Pop Warner up to high school, up to college, up to professionals, I think sort of the tone and the expectation that's set makes a difference. And it sounds like for your, it was more like that really was sort of crushing.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't bring it to speak to on my behalf. I appreciate you ladies sharing it. That's amazing, because we've seen it from two aspects, right? So from a mother's aspect, we the pressure of watching your child being under pressure, and then we speaking from a wife, and you actually see it from the sideline where you literally see the pressure. And sometimes, unfortunately, not saying that it's so, because I don't know your story, but sometimes mislaid aggression comes home, and the frustrations of what's happening out on the field or what happened in the locker room can be brought home to you. So just kind of appreciate the aspect. That's why we want you guys to be comfortable enough to just share your perspective.
Right.
Yeah,
And I think question.
I think with some of the coaches, they have some coaches that really care about the kids. But then there are also some that worry about the bottom line, which is the money. There are quite a few out there that really do care about the kids, especially kids who come from homes that have problems and whatever, But
I mean, in my experience alone, I could say that I've been very fortunate throughout my experiences with coaches, whether it be through high school, youth, and now currently in college. I've been very fortunate that my son himself has always been good at also, picking and choosing, comfortable situations for himself where he doesn't have that stress as much. I mean, it's there, it's present for a lot of the young people that's playing. Thankfully, I just haven't had that at this point in my son's career, have had to deal with a lot of stress, a lot of, problems with coaches, and, him not having, the ability to speak to his coaches and be, upfront with them, because that's another aspect of football is you have to be able to talk and speak and say, how you feel about certain situations. And if you don't have that comfortable communication with your coaches, that right there is a big red flag.
Yeah.
So
you have two children that are in football now, right?
Yes, my youngest one is a freshman in high school here in New York. So, our season didn't have a season this year, so, but we were able to play some football in the youth league throughout the fall, and we did win a national championship, ladies.
All right now, all right.
And that was
Yeah,
something that was
14
his
years.
passion. He wanted to go into football. Your younger
Yeah,
son?
that's
The
a
younger
good
one
question.
was
Like, how
natural.
do you know? Like,
Well,
that's
the
Yeah.
younger
the
one
direction
was
they
a
want to go.
natural. He grew up on the football field from the time he was a baby. So he was just always there naturally. And it was just, I'm next. And he picked up the football and he went and played and he's currently playing as well and he enjoys it. And I'm a parent that I say, if your kid doesn't enjoy it or they don't find it fun,
Mhm.
then let it go. Find something
Let it
that is fun for them, because football is not an easy sport.
Unfortunately, sometimes a child's dream becomes a parent's reality, right?
Correct.
The kid has a dream, he tries it, he doesn't like it, but the parent wants them to continue. And I think that can be really squashing for a child.
Yep.
They walk
Yeah.
away from sports and that's it. So I think as parents, I have 3 sons, they all played football and went on to college to play. But I will tell you, I've known James and Jessica for a long, long time. And my question is your circle of friends,
Yeah.
Michelle and Jessica, do you see that circle getting smaller as you climb that ladder from, junior high, high school, college, and then professional? How does the friendships pan out in those circles, I guess is my question. Do you see it getting smaller? Are there people that you kind of have to like stay away from? Are there coat riders, if you know what I'm saying, wanting
Thank you for asking that. I actually had that was going to be the next because
I'm sorry, Sherry. I'm
no,
sorry.
that was right on point because you said so. I was trying to figure out how to word it before I asked. Because
Listen, I have no filter. I have no filter.
That's a great question too.
And that is really one of the things is because as a parent, now again, as a parent, do you get a lot of pushback when you say, well, you said something? Because, women have a gut feeling that sometimes men don't get to understand that feeling.
Yeah.
But as a mom, do you sometimes try to push, you get some pushback because he may see somebody that's in his mind a friend, but you see them as somebody that's trying to ride his coattails. And Jessica, same with you. You're actually in a position where people are looking for names to throw around and try to get some prestige, and this gut feeling's like, babe, I don't like him. There's something about her, I don't want her around. Like those are the kind of things that's just a target. So I'm just kind of curious on what y'all feel about those.
I'd like to know that same question, Jessica, if you could give us more insight, because and you've already experienced a lot of this that my son is going to hopefully soon experience. So I'd like to know what your thoughts are as well.
Right. Yeah, Jessica, she's been
well, it's funny because I met James when I was like fairly young. I was only my sophomore year in college.
Okay.
And I wasn't a sports fan by any stretch.
Something in common.
I'm sorry.
That's something in common because I'm learning.
Yeah. Well, if you're at enough games, you'll learn. But I think part of it is, the transition too, because when you were saying, like, does your circle get smaller? I sort of think it naturally has, just because, when we dated in college, he had an enormous circle. I had a pretty big circle. We had a lot of people involved. And I think, as we sort of grew up together, if you will, you keep the people who are close. Maybe we're sort of outer friendships. They sort of, with the distance, just, I think naturally kind of fall off, unfortunately. And then you make sort of new circles and, especially even as a parent, you sort of have new circles now because it's your friends, so I think it's certainly changed a lot over the years. I think when he first was in the league, you know, you do sort of get that gut feeling, you know, I'm not going to lie, that's been there before.
Yeah.
Sort of, you know, gut reaction that like, this doesn't seem like something, you know, that's good for us sort of. But I think for the most part, we're both pretty grounded people and have had like the core of our friends have stayed pretty similar. You know, like the people who are in the inner circle are still sort of inner circle, you know, but I do think the years friendships have changed quite a bit. And I think some of it just has to do with distance, truthfully. And like, you know, even when he was in the league, I was friends with a lot of women, you know, wives of players, things like that, girlfriends of players. But I think like as people move around, you know, it's sort of naturally difficult to maintain those relationships, not because there was anything problematic, just because, you know, life happens in the in-between.
Right.
That's an interesting point, because I think that, you know, again, we, and this is outside of sports, right? I mean, there's that progression through life, you know, from young years to older years to, you know, what you're doing in as part of life, and then moving, or, you know, that's even family relationships to change as well. So it's good. I think there's a lot of similarities, even if it's, you know, related to athletics, or professional. But, you know, I think to your point, it's that core that's important. And those that fall off, they just fall off, and it doesn't have to be anything negative per se, but I think that's a good point and good insights for folks. But I'm actually interested, because we talked about, it's interesting because Michelle and I had a long conversation, and man, we had a lot to talk about. But she talked about relationships, and she talked about family, and she talked about the circle, right? And those that are part of your circle, and how important that was. And I think you can relate to this as well, Jessica. So I want Michelle to kind of speak to that. And I'd love to understand if you saw the same thing as it evolved into from, you know, college to NFL and beyond. Michelle, can you hear us?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I'm sitting here, I'm listening.
We just bringing you back into it, Michelle.
We're bringing you back
okay.
into
Well,
it. So as far as the relationships
You're
were
right.
concerned, and how that,
Listen,
how you guys work together.
I mean, honestly, we have a really good core. Our core base is, you know, my regular family, you know, my whole family, my immediate family. And then of course my football family, because as a youth, we developed such great, strong bonds with our youth, a football family, that those are still our friends still to this day. Like literally, even as the kids have grown and went on to high school, now they're in college and, you know, or in careers or doing whatever they're doing, we still have the same friends that we had back then, and they still support each other. My son's friends that he had from 7 are still the same friends today that, you know, still support him. You know, for us, it's been really good. I guess because in New York, it's just, you know, we just have such a small group of us here that we all kind of stick together. You know, and again, like Jessica said, you meet new people and you bring new people into the fold as you go, you know, but those same families are just like you. They only have football family friends just like you. And all of us at the same time all have those same, you know, same commitments. You know, you're not worrying about, you know, oh, you can't do this or you can't do that, because pretty much we all are doing the same thing. We'll be at the football field on Saturday and Sunday. So we all kind of have the same routines. You know, we know what, you know, each other's doing, and it kind of feels comfortable in that sense. You don't have to worry about, you know, fitting in other groups or other circles. You know, you have other friends. Yeah, obviously we all have other friends that are outside of football for other situations, but you know, the understanding and what football means to football families is entirely different than what it is to other people that don't understand football or understand what, you know, what it takes, because you give up a lot of your time, you know, to be with your football and your football families and your football teams. You know, it takes up 5 to 6 months of your year, sometimes more. You know, so this is something that becomes a lifestyle. You know, and the more kids you have playing, the more less time you have available basically for yourselves. You know, there's no summer vacations because summers are spent, you know, football training, football camps, football commitments, other things to get better, you know, in your craft. So, you know, the time that kids are spending going to Disney or the Caribbean, you're sitting at home like, okay, we got a football camp down in Florida or Georgia, you know, and that's your fun for the summer. You know, so, you know, and the good thing about it is that you don't feel left out because your other friends are going to the same football camp also. So it's not so bad. You know, you guys are going to have a good time either way. You know, so I guess to say the fun is relative depending upon how you see it, you know, but football is a commitment. It's a full-time commitment. And, you know, most people just don't understand that aspect of it. They think, oh, okay, the kid is just playing and it's fun. Yeah, it is fun. But when you take on this aspect, if you want to play in college, and most kids do, you know, because you're not just playing it just to be playing it. Some kids are, you know, but if you really see it yourself and you see that you can play at that next level in college or maybe even past college, you're going to put more time and energy into it. You're going to go out and you're going to, you know, get more time in. And that means maybe spending less time with your friends, you know, your school friends or, you know, your other friends. Because you'll be spending it on the field.
Really quickly, I'm watching the chat room, and June, she's actually live streaming the show on TikTok. And one of the questions that came up was how did you help your son deal with the loss of a game when there's so much focus on winning? So how do you help them deal with the loss of losing a game when there's so much of a focus on winning a game?
This will be good for both Jessica and Michelle.
I can tell you this, how hurtful it is, you know, because we've gone to the big, you know, the big dances here in New York. We've gone to the championship games. And in my son's senior year of high school, we made it to Yankee Stadium here in New York City. And that's like the biggest show of high school football and, you know, and public school high school football. And we made it there, and literally it was like so close. The weather was bad. It's raining, you know, everything is like, you know, everything that could go wrong that day went wrong, you know, and we lost by 1 point, but my son literally would not give up in that game. He still came back and he scored us our own little score that we got for the game, but we got it. And, you know, we lost 7-6, you know, and it was a hard crushing, you know, a crush to us because we had went that whole season undefeated. And then you get to Yankee Stadium and you lose, you know, so you go home with those wet tears in your eyes and, you know, you're a little upset because you wanted to win. But at the same time, I mean, what can you do? You still got to hold your head up. You still got to go out there and you still got to get ready for college tomorrow because that game is done. Now you got to move on to the next thing. So, you know, it hurts. Yes. I mean, because obviously who wants to go that far and lose? But at the same time, I mean, there's so many other accolades that come along with it. So it's just a game. And I have to always remind my kids of that all the time. Like, okay, it's just a game, but we do like winning.
The same question posed to Jessica, because it's not just a game for him, it's his job.
Right.
I was even thinking about what you were saying, Michelle, about like how much you have to put into it, like the amount of commitment that you have to put into it. Because even thinking about like when James and I were both undergrads, like my life and college experience looked so different than his because of, you know, I wasn't a D1 athlete, and, you know, the amount of commitment he had to put into practices, to games, to trainings, you know, and I think that speaks to the question about how do you deal with those losses, because, you know, there is so much competition and competition for, you know, where you fall in the depth chart. You know, there's a lot of, it's a lot bigger than sort of just a game. You know, further up you go, you know, like somebody had mentioned earlier, like football's there's a business component to it. You know, it's not.
You have to have dedication.
Yeah, it's just not fun anymore. You know, and I think that sort of plays into how hard the losses are, you know, on a lot of different levels. You know, and I think for me, a lot of it was sort of giving him space, you know, when those hard losses, you know, he was always pretty good at being able to sort of boundary that way, like where there's a lot of disappointment at first, but able to sort of move past it pretty quickly. And I think part of it is that like, there's this issue, you know, there's this like, well, there's a game, but there's also a game the following week. So you have to be able to turn it off fairly quickly to be able to move forward, to focus on the next thing, you know, but I think, I think.
Okay. So real quick, the people on TikTok want to know who you all think is going to win today. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Wait until the end.
Listen,
but TikTok is ahead, they want to know who's going to win.
The Chiefs.
We're gonna reserve that one, Tiffany. Let's get that one at the end for us again.
Okay.
Jessica's got a house
somebody in our group is on a football pool.
No, we usually do, but not this year.
Yeah, no.
I hope it's like 28-21.
Jessica,
I'm with you. I'm with you. I love the close games in a Super Bowl.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I believe it's going to be a good game.
Yeah, I love it.
I believe so too.
I'm there for the commercials.
All right. So let me just tell y'all. Let me just tell you, when we were putting this together, right? I got all these pretty balloons and Chiefs and the Dallas and the touchdown and stuff here. Okay. But in reality, I need, what do we got to call those books? Football for Dummies?
No, you don't. No, you don't. Listen.
Who the chief is, I don't know who, and I got the shirt on. I had somebody made me this nice little shirt.
Well, that's a very nice shirt,
Tiffany. Listen, Tiffany, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad, because this is how I started with football. I didn't know anything about football until my son came in one day and said, Mom, Dad signed me up for Pee Wee. He was only 7. And let me tell you, I became the loudest parent every Saturday and Sunday on that field, okay? And now in our household, when we were living in Brooklyn, one son was the Giants, I was the Giants, the other son was Dallas, my daughter was Dallas, Rick was the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, it was confusion on Sunday in that house, okay? And it's still confusion because my husband is a diehard Colts fan and I'm a Giant fan. But when my Giants are not playing, I will go for the Steelers. And if the Steelers are out, it's Kansas City all the way.
All right.
Last year,
yes.
Last year, Kansas City won, and I believe they're going to win again this year.
And how I picked my team this year? I said, Hillside, who you got? Who?
The Chiefs.
Who you got? She said, Kansas City. I said, okay, make me one of them shirts in Kansas City in the Chiefs. That's who I got. I got who Hillside got.
I mean, this is good.
In my house, in my home, there were 3 boys and my husband. And as they got older, I had TVs in each of the bedrooms, and that's what, they were all different football fans.
Oh my God.
I would argue, and so I was like, go to your respective rooms and watch the game, because I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. My kids played football from 7 years old all the way up. And my youngest son and James, actually, they played on the playground while his older brother and my oldest son played football. That's how long I've known them. They were in diapers, for heaven's sake. We had them in strollers. Yeah.
Wow.
But we drugged those poor kids along to those games. And something I always would say to Francine was we would be sitting in these games, pouring down rain, freezing, whatever. The kids would be bundled up in these big, suits. And we put garbage cans over them, of course, cut the head out, but we put garbage cans bags over them so they wouldn't be wet. And I'd say to her, I would never allow my boys to go out and play in this crap, but here we sit watching these kids play on this field. I mean, it's crazy, but it gets
and loved every minute of it, didn't you? You enjoyed every bit of it.
Yep. I remember going to games where it was so freezing we had to take hot chocolate and bundle up on Saturday and Sunday.
Yes, blankets.
Yeah,
seated cushions.
Yeah.
Everything. You come prepared because you know it doesn't matter if it's raining, if
Yep.
it's
Yep.
snowing like it is
It
today,
doesn't matter
if
what
it's
weather.
sunshine, if it's hot, it don't matter. Football is going to go on.
Yes.
Yes.
And seeing that you said that, I need to piggyback off of that and give you a new question.
Thank you, because I was ready.
So the years of an athlete are
Mhm.
short.
Yes.
My brother-in-law happens to be the president of Paramount Sports and Entertainment. He's a sports agent.
Oh, wow.
And he had did an interview back some years ago. And in his interview, he was saying how within 5 to 10 years, when an athlete, so this is going to start with you, Michelle, but Jessica, because she's at the point of retirement, I needed to find out how it works. So I'm questioning for those that might have children coming up like yours. He said that usually, if they're not wise enough to understand their contracts, if they are not guided properly, if they are not investing properly, if they are not doing making their money grow in other ways, that they eventually are broke. They bring along their family with them. They are taking care of every family member, responsibility. They are trying to survive on their own. With the athlete's life is short, because we know, especially with the NFL, the bumps and the bruises and the banging and the falling, their bodies are beat up.
Yep.
And immensely beat up. So I'm asking, if anyone has had that conversation with you, and if you had guidance to help you guys. One of the people that I know that he's not NFL, but Shaq has so much invested that people don't realize that he's wealthy, but his wealth has a residual wealth right now.
Right.
Based on his other businesses and his education, because he continued to go to college and he furthered his education. He has built, I think he has, matter of fact, somewhere close to 300 businesses. Magic Johnson, as you see, he also has built an empire outside of the league that he participated in. And I can't personally say I know NFL players that actually have done the same. I don't personally know any. So I'm saying to you, Michelle, are you getting the guidance? And Jessica, is this something that you have seen? I'm not saying that you might be to the point of that. I'm just asking, because when he was explaining it in the interview on television, he was explaining how if it's not done correctly, they're broke.
Oh yeah.
And they actually have to try to figure out how to survive being here and then it being taken down to here if they don't have nowhere else to go with it.
Yep.
Yeah. Question.
Well, I'll say, even as we were on the recruitment trail process in high school going into college, at interviews at different schools, and in particular at Syracuse, they actually gave us some insight on how money management in college works, and how they have courses and classes that help prepare the athlete for life in the NFL should they get to that. So you'll understand how to manage your money, how to invest your money, how to structure how the contract is structured. They go over these information with the athletes while they're still in college. So my son now, from the time he was a freshman, has been going in and sitting down with an advisor, who's explaining to him, how these contracts work, how the structures work, how payments work, how to invest your money smart and wisely should you get to that level. So they're making them more aware. I'm not sure if this is something that had been going on in the NFL many years ago, but I know currently it is something that they do teach and that they offer in colleges and the big programs. They do have advisors who do sit down and counsel the young men I can say that from, from the standpoint, because I've seen it at many colleges. They talk about it in the recruitment process as part of, some of the aspects of ways that they can help these guys along the way. So this is something that they do offer. I don't know if all the programs doing it, but I know the ones that I've went to, I've seen them, and the coaches have actually sat down and told us. We've seen videos, they tell us, this is what they're going to offer these kids.
So it's possibly because of that was in 2013 that he did that interview. And I don't even know why it popped up for me to rewatch the video this morning, but I guess to get this question to you. And it's possibly because of situations from then that these are offered now.
Right.
So that
there were a lot of athletes that, professional athletes that went broke. As soon as their contracts were over, their money was gone and they didn't have anything to show for anything. And I think because of those
programs for these youth, it's probably those that created the programs that come in now and teach the youth what on your level, so that when they get to the professional level, they have it, correct?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, this is something that may be new that they're doing because of previous situations. My son started a recruitment back in, I would say, 2016. So, this is some recent, adjustments that they're making. I don't know how far back it goes. I know, but when we were on the recruitment trail, these were some of the, information that was given. And even now, currently, while my son is in college at Rutgers, they do offer.
So Jessica, you're coming from a position of even prior to 2006, 2008. I don't recall exactly the year as far as retiring, and we'll talk about that as well. But what were those things offered? Was there insight, advisors, so that you know what to do from a retirement standpoint, and contracts and things of that nature? How did you guys manage through that?
Yeah, I don't know what was offered at Syracuse, like when he was in college. I don't know if those are newer programs or if that was something that was offered, so I can't really speak to that. But I know they had like player development folks that helped with some of those conversations, that there was a lot of information around retirement and how to structure things and things like that once he was in the league. I also think that, probably who's representing you is really important in terms of those conversations. And I also remember sort of casual conversations, like the more informal conversations between players and friends. So I think they did happen, but it sounds like they probably happen more now than maybe they did years back. I'm not sure.
How did you, as retirement came into focus, right? And we know there was an injury, so understand, and I'm hoping that he's much better now. So it's been quite a while. But how did you guys manage going from, because I think it's important for people to understand like what's next post retirement, and that it's dependent on the situation, right? Everybody retires and does different things. What was that like for you guys, for your situation, and how you managed through the lens of retirement without even knowing at that point in time that was going to occur, but eventually it was? How did you guys manage through the transition into retirement?
I mean, it was hard. I mean, I think that, like we were talking about earlier about the losses, it's that, like, how do you cope with a loss? And I think it was really emotional. It was a hard transition. He had in a lot of ways, we were really grateful that he played his whole career in Indianapolis. Once he was signed there, he stayed there. So, we didn't have to do a lot of the moving around. And he had a good career. So I think he was always grateful for that. But it was hard transitioning out of playing football. I mean, it's a huge part of your identity and who you're around and your relationships, just like the day to day. So I think that just sort of emotionally kind of being there for each other, through that. I think for him, particularly, education was a big piece. Like part of the reason, when he was looking at colleges, he wanted to be able to get a degree. Education was always super important to me too. So, you know, I think like he always realized that football wasn't going to last forever. He was a running back. Those positions are sort of hard on your body.
Yeah.
So knowing that, like, what am I going to do after this? I think that, you know, it certainly wasn't in the forefront when he was playing, but I think he always sort of knew in the background that he needed something else, that he could do.
Yeah.
I think for us in particular, timing was really helpful because I had just had my son like earlier that year. So I think that really actually helped quite a bit with the transitioning out of football, just because it gave him like another role that was really important, like something else he could sort of throw himself into. But, you know, I think you're right when you're saying like, you don't necessarily know when retirement's going to come in football. You know, it's not the same as like their careers where you plan at this age, I'm going to
Retire. Yeah.
So, to kind of get back to the original question, the financial piece, those initial conversations are really important because you never know when retirement's going to happen. Like you're sort of one injury away from retirement in some ways. So,
Right.
And
So to
in
your
that,
point, you talked about having your son, and I actually did see, I don't know if it was in an interview or written in the paper, he did say, number one is my family, right? My son and my wife, and number three is football, which I found rather interesting because, you know, you would think passion, number one is my career, like, you know, and then, yeah, now you're transitioning into that family phase. And and to your point, the timing was perfect, you know, although not necessarily what he probably was envisioning at that point in time. But, you know, I was taken aback by that comment. I was like, oh, that's such a sweet
Well, you know
thing to
what?
even say for, you know.
I have to speak up here. And I hope you don't mind, Jessica, me jumping in here, but James has always been humble
Yeah.
and comes from a very humble family that are always grateful for everything that they've ever had. They are hard workers, always have been. He had a great structure and a good foundation. And like I said, he's always been very humbled and grateful for everything that has been, that he's earned. He's earned everything that he has. I'm sorry, I don't mean to jump in.
No. I
Can
mean,
I ask
I'm very,
Jessica this
you know, like I
question?
feel protective of, you know, his
of her son from
oh,
another mother.
exactly.
yeah,
Their family.
yeah, he
Listen,
kind of
you
grew
know.
up here. He's a part of our family, and Jessica as well. And you know, the Mungros have just been a fantastic addition, extended family, and I know they feel the same. A lot of years. You're talking almost 50 years of friendship here.
Whoa, did she just
Yeah.
date herself, y'all? Everybody,
She did it herself.
we know you have a question for Jessica.
Yes.
Yeah. Can I with the being in the NFL, do they have health insurance for these guys?
yeah, I you know, I can't remember the specifics, but yeah, there was a certain period after retirement that there's coverage for, but
No, because the reason I asked you this question, I saw this week, Henry is his last name. I can't remember the first name. He played for the Steelers. He had 18 concussions. And the NFL, he sued the NFL. And just this past week, him and another guy sued the NFL because they denied him coverage. And he's going through a lot of medical issues, depression and all that stuff. He's had 18 concussions.
wow.
You know,
Wow.
and so that's why I was wondering if they had health insurance during the playing days and after the playing days. Because a lot of these guys get hurt and, you know, they have nothing to fall back on.
Yeah, that's been a big thing that's been in the NFL, you know, most
with the
recently.
concussions. Yeah.
The concussion protocol, and it's you know,
Well, it has
suppose-
changed,
I
but this is
know.
an older player. Yeah.
Is there what is the health coverage for you know, for athletes at that level, Jessica?
You know, I'm not sure exactly of the specifics. You know, I know during the league, you know, they're followed pretty closely medically. But then after the league, like I said, there was coverage for a period of time. And then I think there are some sort of benefits that are ongoing to help with some medical costs. But of like what it, I'm not sure of the specifics really.
Okay.
I mean, that's a good that's a
Sorry.
good segue into just the concerns around. So as a mother, as a wife, being concerned, I know you've gone through it, Jessica, personally. What are the things like how, I know you have to think about that, right? As your children are playing or as your husband's playing, you're worried about potential concussion or just injuries in general.
Injuries.
Yeah.
Big
Because forget
injuries.
about the sport itself. I'm worried about my husband, my child. How do you manage through those and how do you think through those? And I know there's training and how to, kind of maneuver and whatever have you, but how do you manage those emotionally, mentally, and prepare yourself for or do you prepare yourself for those situations? And how do you manage through that?
Well, I can tell you, my son's first year of college was extremely stressful. He had jammed his thumb in practice, even before the season started. So he came into the season and he's a freshman, he's fighting for a spot. He's like, I just got to get on special teams. I just want to get on the field. I just want to play, he's excited. And then he jams his thumb. And that was like the most stressful time is to go through your freshman year. You have to redshirt now, even though he was going to redshirt regardless. But, it was just the principle. You only could play 4 games and your best 4 games, you're playing with your thumb in a cast, so it's extremely frustrating, and for him, he's the type who likes to compete and he's like, my hand isn't, I'm all messed up. And then in a game where he felt like he would have made more of an impact, of course, he was already out because he had played his 4 games. Now his thumb is healed and he's sitting on the sidelines twiddling that same thumb, so it gets stressful sometimes. And, you have to hear them, they may not cry about it like, like most folks, but, it hurts them, and it's like, it takes away a lot because you work so hard, literally in the off season to get to that point of being able to go out there and play. And then you can't because of an injury.
Yeah.
And even like sometimes they'll even play through those injuries.
Right.
And my son played through injury this year. He didn't care. He was like, I got to get out there. I got to play, because this was big for him, even though the season didn't really count as much, but he still had to go out there and he had to do what he had to do because they were out on the field, and it's tough because, those injuries hurt, your body is aching and hurting, and at the same time, you're still having to go to rehab. You still have to go to practice through all of this, and it's hard. There's days when they're crying to you on the phone, like, I'm hurt, I'm tired, I'm hurting, but they're not going to give up, obviously. But it's just that principle, and as a mom, to have to take that in and hear that stress, that pain, it's like, what can you do? And it's not really much that, as a mother, I can do other than to sit there and tell them, it's going to be okay. But it's really stressful at times when, when they're hurt because they're our kids and, you want to see them, go out there and live their dreams and do these, do everything that they've been working so hard for.
Right.
But those injuries, man, they can definitely, put a damper on things, mentally and, as a family, because we all go through it.
Right.
He's not the only one that's hurting. The whole family's hurting.
Right.
Because we got to listen to him moan and groan about being hurt.
And then tell him, go out there and play. No.
Listen, at some point, it's like, you can't just pat him on the back and say, okay,
Right.
go ahead, go back out there. Because
Right.
physically, they just
can't.
But it's that thing, you want to be there for them. And you have to be there for them, but it's hard because, for us, it hurts too, because you hate to see them in that position.
And that's where I think, again, and Jessica, I want to, same question to you, because I think it's important for parents, wives, whomever it is, right, to really understand that it is a family thing that's affected by situations like these, and how you maneuver through those situations to help support those athletes, right? And your family, your blood, in most cases. So Jessica, I know with, obviously with James, there was a ACL injury, if I'm not mistaken. How did you guys manage? And I know it was emotional for you guys. How did you guys kind of manage through that? Because that obviously was a big impact to him and part of the career, right? The continuing from a career aspect.
Yeah, I think the ACL was actually sort of different than other injuries that he's because, it was always hard for me watching, especially being someone who wasn't coming from being like a contact sport fan. Just it's so contact and, it's just, you see these like massive people and they're the ones that are tackling, and it's, so I think that it was always hard and there was always sort of worry about injury. He had a few different things happen over the years in terms of, more minor things, and I completely agree with you, Michelle, obviously it's different as a parent, but even as a spouse, it's so hard to see somebody who's like super strong to be in that much pain. It's hard to see people you love in pain, generally. I think the ACL was a little bit different because it took him out of the season. The other injuries he's had, it would be like a couple games that you sort of rehab for and through, but ACL is just, it's a whole different world. He had to rehab for a long time for that. Like left and was out of state for months at a rehab facility to work through that surgery and trying to get range of motion. So
I actually have a friend
He's
of
actually,
mine.
go ahead. I'm sorry,
Sorry,
Sharon.
I was just gonna say I have a friend of mine whose son had played high school, collegiate, and then went and got chosen for a NFL team. And he had actually got hurt before the season truly began. He played his first season. He got hurt in the first season, one of the games in the first season, and he didn't heal right to the point where he's not able to play anymore. And we talked about injuries and how people hurt. He newly married, new baby, and then everything. I don't wish it on anyone, but I can't even imagine dealing with the newness of it all. Like he was just in his mind, he was here, and that was happening in his reality. And then just one injury took him down and took him out, which is why, people say they don't understand why athletes are paid as much or so much, but their careers are short. And it's a matter of what they do with their money and how they money manage. I'm a tax professional. So for me, I want to know that, that everything is covered. I explain to people when you're paying in taxes, you're paying into yourself. So a lot of times people don't see that. But I do my heart breaks for each of you. Your husband had an injury. And as a parent, I know that when your baby got a splinter, it's like, oh, let me get it out. So, I get the concept of both of that. So let me just try to get something. Let's change something because that's kind of a little bit sad. But let me ask a good question. Michelle. Yeah. You have a son, and that picture I seen of your son, he is extremely handsome.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let's talk about something that we can share with.
I know where she's going.
Like the groupies.
Yes, let's talk about the groupies.
Not a good boy, I'm saying, but he's a good-looking boy in a lot of ways right now to these young girls. So I don't know if it's but I'm sure the groupies are making noise. And I don't know how y'all dealing with that, because he's in college too. Did you tell him how to use the helmet right?
He definitely has
the helmet.
But I don't know what goes on the college campus because they haven't been on campus since COVID. So
right.
Maybe that's a savings grace.
Well, that probably is a savings grace.
Yeah.
But so he knows that. And this is something that I've told. I got 8 brothers. So what I told my brothers, my nephews, my grandson, he's too little, not my grandson, but other people's grandsons. Every time they lay down with a person, that's a person that is potentially going to affect their life forever.
That's right.
So as a mom, especially of an athlete,
Mm,
one that is going places,
mm.
if you haven't had to, which you probably sound like you straight talked him.
Yes, I do.
He has the right guidance to not he has the right guidance not to just fall for anybody, because their body is deceiving. So she might look good, but she may not be good on the inside, and she may not be good for him. So I'm sure you have people in your life that say that, but I just was kind of curious how you handling the little groupies.
Oh, Michelle, we talked about this, didn't we?
Yeah, we
Go
did.
ahead.
I'm pretty fortunate. I tell you, I feel so blessed, honestly, because my son has been a blessing. I haven't had a lot of trouble with him. He's always been pretty much a good student, good athlete, good all-around nature kid, community active. He does everything. He's like the well-rounded kid, honestly. I don't really have a lot to really say negative about him, because he does what he's supposed to do. And of course, he brought home a nice young lady, which he was supposed to do also.
Because
He
mom was
brought home
already
a nice young lady who is, like I say, she's a great young girl. She's also a fellow Big Tenor. She's at Penn State. She's studying to become, a doctor, a medical professional in that area. But, she has her own life, her own career going on. She has her own things, her own aspects of what she wants for herself. It's not like she's only focused on him. She has her own thing that she's doing. He has his own thing that he's doing. So I don't have that pressure having to always remind him to say, she's doing too much, because he's busy and she's busy, and she has her own focus and he has his own focus. So for me, that works very well, as a mom, when they get a chance to see each other, they see each other, there's no stress.
So let me back off of that for Jessica.
Go ahead. Yeah, I was going to say.
You met James in college. That means you had aspirations of your own.
Correct. Yeah.
Have you followed them through? And do you have a career outside of being a wife?
Yeah,
and a mom, because those are the two titles that I am very well aware of.
Yeah.
But do you have your own goals, and have you achieved what you wanted to?
Yeah, I feel really good about that. I'm glad you asked, because it sort of goes off what you were saying, Michelle, about, having your own sort of identity and goals and aspirations and that sort of thing. And I think that was something that helped James and I, is that I always, I certainly supported him and can appreciate how much work that was and a passion, but also had goals for myself. When I left undergrad, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. So I took I took a few years to sort of take some graduate classes here and there and sort of decide on a direction. And since that time, I finished my master's degree and PhD. So I was able to, school was always really important to me, and I wanted to kind of go as far as I could in that area. And with the support of my son and James both, was able to do those things. So
congratulations, Jessica.
That's awesome, Jessica.
Thank you.
That's a lot. And I think you hit it in the nail on the head, is have your own identity. And I think you both, as obviously with the athletes in your families.
As a mom, I respect that more.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a mother, it's more respectful to have a young lady in my son's life who actually has her own identities, her own goals, her own wants in life, and not so much dependent upon, my son and what he's going to be doing in his. Because that's the easiest way for me. I look at it, for them not to have to be compatible long term. Right. You have to have your own identity.
Yeah. Yep. They have.
So if any of the young girls are watching, just know mama is looking, okay? So you better have your own identity.
Yes, we are watching you, ladies.
No, I mean, I think it's important because it's important, you guys and ladies. I love the fact that you said, that is important, because education is obviously important, even with the sport, right? You have to have some level of, what you're going to do post, even if you get into the NFL or you don't, you have to do something, right? My
Mhm.
father always said, you know,
Yes.
my father-in-law, as long you get up and you do something. I don't care what you do after high school, but you got to do something. You got to
Do
get out of the
something.
house. But
Absolutely.
it's important. I think today or now, there's more independence, right? Women are more independent as well. And I think that's also kind of lent into the, you know, just the culture has changed and women are more independent and trying to flourish on their own. Whereas back in the day, that wasn't always the case. So,
Right.
you know, I can appreciate that because I think it's important for people to know that don't focus just on the person you're going to be with, focus on yourself as well. Because you'll grow together no matter what, right? I mean, you have to grow together. You can't have one person just, you know, and then you're just like kind of leaning into that person all the time. I think it's important to grow together. So I think it's important to have
Yeah.
your own identity and be who you are. So
Exactly.
So I grew up in the 60s. So I just want to let you all know I burned a lot of bras so that we can be kind of where we are today. Just saying.
That's why she's spicy.
Yes, that's why I'm spicy.
Can you even know? If you didn't know, now you know.
Yeah.
I want to say that
Absolutely.
I met Michelle years ago. Where do we meet Michelle? In the industry, when I was traveling the industry, and we haven't seen each other for a long time, but we've been on Facebook together. And I've actually literally watched her kids grow up on Facebook. So I've watched the commitment.
The same with yours as well.
Right, I know, right? And it's weird because you don't
We've
see
watched
them, but you get to see
throughout the years.
go up on Facebook for years because of Facebook. So we've stayed connected just because of Facebook, and I've actually through the pictures have been able to see her kids grow up. So when we talked about having this show, I was like, wait a minute, Michelle, you know, and I called her and I said, would you be willing to do the show? Let me get Michelle on, because it takes a lot of dedication and commitment to your kids to do that. Like, I mean, she also does nails as well. And I know she's put her career, that part to the side, because all of a sudden it just became her sons. And they were going to football games and I would watch all the pictures and whatever. And I actually watched her oldest son now go from playing football for the little leagues to all the way up. And I was like, I mean, and I'm like, wow. So I was amazed at that whole process. So when I forgot who brought up this topic for Super Bowl, but I was like, that would be perfect because you have to, it's the commitment and again, the discipline to get them where they need to go. So everything, and again, here we go back to discipline. And Stefania, we talked about it earlier on the phone when we talked about this whole scenario here, where it's the discipline and everything that we do that gets us there. And we also talked about how the sistership and the commitment that you have to put into it, you're breathing it, you're living it, there's nothing, it just changes everything. If you're really gonna do it, you gotta do it.
Yeah, you can't stay
It's dedication.
Foundation.
Dedication. And you have to live, eat, sleep football.
What you said.
So I actually,
and she's not lying.
Right. So I have a question. So this whole eat, sleep, football. So let me ask you. So I know, Jessica, you said you weren't really a sports person, you know, prior, and you're a football mom, Michelle. So you had to learn. So what did it take for you guys to truly learn the sport, right? Because as a mother and as a wife, this is what you're living and breathing. Like, what did it take? What are the things you need to know so that, you know, for those who are actually looking at this, they're like, okay, I really need to be aware of this, the sport, you know, coaches, et cetera, and so on. So what did you learn through the process? Because I know for you, Michelle, it took time. You learn, but you did your research, which I was astounded because a lot of people don't really do research. So kind of speak to like what it took for you to really learn and understand the game and all it entailed. So I'll start with Michelle, because you gave me a perspective yesterday, and Jessica, the fact that you weren't a sports person, I would love to know how you learned the sport.
How she acclimated to it. Yeah.
Well, the good thing is they started early, so I got to learn from when they were little.
Yep. Right.
about football, because as a mom, you know, it's different watching it on television than it is actually seeing it up close in person. You know, up close in person, it doesn't look the same. It looks all over the place. And you know, you don't half the time you don't even know what's happening because it happens so quick. So you're like, oh my gosh, did he just go in between and get in there? And you know, and eventually you start asking, like, okay, so he's gonna get how many yards and he's gonna do what next? And he's going to do what on this? They're going to blitz. They're going to do what? You know, and you start to understand, like, what are these things that they're saying? And you start to see it. And as you're seeing it, you start to understand it more. And that's just the easiest way to understand football, is just to see it in person, basically from when they're little. You know, if you got grandkids or, you know, nephews or whatever, or somebody that you know that's playing, go to a game and watch. And see it up close and personal. That's the best way to understand. And ask questions. And actually stand next to one of the uncles, because they'll give you so much information. They will tell you everything on the field and what that kid do and how great they are. They will tell you everything. So trust me, it's so easy. Just go to a youth football game if you really want to understand football. And I say this for anybody that's watching. You want to understand football, go to your grandkids game or, you know, or your nephew's game and watch them when they're young. 10, 11. Oh, those are fun games. Oh, those are the best fun games. When they get 13 and 12 and 13, oh, it gets real brutal then. That's when you go into a game. Yeah.
That's when they become the most competitive.
That's how you learn football.
That's how you learn. I mean, that's how I learned, from watching my boys from little. And I got to understand what was actually happening from when they were little. They come home with their little playbooks, and now you got to sit there with them and help them.
Oh my God, the playbooks.
I have to share.
I would go to the parties. I would go to the Super Bowl parties, but I wasn't there to learn the game. I wanted to eat.
You cheating. You going to a Super Bowl party. That's cheating.
I have to share this. That's the
end of the games. That's when it's all over. Super
That's
Bowl.
when it's over.
That is when it's over.
This is the first day of football season. It's Super Bowl. Literally, as a parent, I'm telling you, as a football fan, today is the very last day. It's the hardest day of the year for us because football is officially done. Until the fall.
That's it. After tonight,
I need to know, Jessica.
Yeah.
You were not a sports fan.
Right.
How did you learn the game? Did your husband sit down and say, look, I got to give you the one-on-one?
The one-on-one.
I'm going to be in the NFL, so we got to sit down and talk because my wife needs to know about the game.
Actually, I think exactly what you were saying, Michelle, is from watching the games. Like James' mom at a lot of the home games, and she taught me a lot about it, you know, because she really got it and gave me a lot of information. So I learned a lot from her. And then just going to the games, you know, and I think watching the games with people who know what they're talking about. Like I even think when James was in the movie, I would watch games with like the wives or girlfriends of other players, and they knew so much about the positions, like who missed their block or, you know, so you sort of just observe it, you know, and you learn it from people who really know the game or like know sort of the intricacies of the game. So I guess, you know, he may have tried at some point to sit down and sort of, but
it's hard to really sit down with someone to show you and teach you. The only way to learn football is to actually just watch it. You know, eventually it'll click after a while, but literally just watch it and watch it live. If you can get to a real live football game and actually go with somebody who understands the game, that's the best experience.
Yeah.
Jessica, you have a son now, right? I mean, how old is your son?
He's 14.
He's 14.
Oh,
So
wow.
he's there. So what is it with does your son want to follow in his dad's footsteps? Has there been conversations or even just looking at him and saying, you know what, is he an athlete first and foremost?
Yeah, no, he's definitely an athletic kid. You know, but he's also his own person in a lot of ways. He's got a lot of interests that, you know, sort of, I can see what sort of comes from James and what comes from me, but he also has stuff he's into that really is just him. He is real athletic. He doesn't play football though. He play soccer. He's his main sport. He loves soccer. He plays indoor, he plays outdoor. You know, and I don't know that it was ever really like a conscious decision or conversation. He tried Pop Warner. You know, he was like 50 pounds soaking wet, I think, but you know, when he was little, and he tried soccer, he tried all the sports really, and he just really was drawn to soccer. So, you know, and that's where he's excelled, and it sort of plays to his strengths. So certainly an athlete, but there hasn't really been a
football specific.
He is playing Madden now.
Just so everybody knows, soccer is a big European sport, and that is actually called football in Europe is soccer.
Yes.
Where here in the States, football and soccer are two totally different things.
Right, right.
So, and my niece actually played soccer, so she loved it. She unfortunately got injured, so she couldn't, you know, continue into college and continue from there. But and my nephew played soccer as well, so I can totally relate to the soccer field. And my family comes from Italy, so they were all soccer players, and they watched the World Cup and all the.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I like soccer too. That's another big sport in our house is soccer.
Okay, so now I'm in all sports except soccer. That's good.
Oh no, I love soccer. I mean, we pretty much watch everything. Like I was telling Stefania yesterday, we watch anything from tennis to golf to soccer, whatever it is. If it's a sport on television, it's guaranteed that somebody's watching it in my house.
Yeah, I'm
I
telling
do too,
you,
but that's the only sport I can't get into.
no,
I love it.
I've gotten really into women's basketball. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Oh, great.
Women's basketball.
I like the women's volleyball.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I really enjoy watching it. Yeah, a
And
lot.
this is good because, you know, this is really about, and I would hope, you know, at some point, hopefully we can get actual women who are playing sports on the show, just so anybody knows out there who's an athlete, welcome on in. But, you know, again, I think for you ladies, you know, we talk about MVPs in sports, right? We talk about them, but the people behind, or I like to say beside, because
I love that. I love that you say that. I love that.
The women that are beside the players, it's important to understand. And I think hopefully the viewers, family members, parents who are looking to get their kids involved in athletics or sports, those who are looking to get into, who really are taking it seriously and want to progress in the future, it's important for them to understand from your perspective what it's going to take for them to be so involved and engaged and all that comes with it. There's the emotional aspect. There's the, you know, again, you have to have that dedication, that focus, that energy around it. And that's why I love that we have you ladies on, because you are the real MVPs beside these players. And so my question to you both, and I think it's going to be important also to kind of understand what would you say is your some of the misconceptions that might be out there in relation to the sport, or just how families need to manage being the supporters of those athletes. What are some of the misconceptions you've heard, and what would you say about those? So I'll start, you know, Michelle first, and Jessica. What are some of the misconceptions you've heard that people need to be aware of that are, you know, not true, and how they need to maneuver around that?
Yeah, I mean, most times, you know, you're always going to get, you know, athletes and coaches in particular who are going to, you know, tell families all the time, hey, you know, your kid's great, you know, they want them involved in this, and you're paying all these monies for all this, you know, just a whole bunch of just random things. You know, there's always just that aspect of people trying to take advantage of kids, when in fact, you know, some kids aren't not going to live up to that potential of going as far as other kids in this game. And that's just a natural thing. But I think sometimes people and parents get pride upon, you know, into, you know, coaches and other people, you know, saying that, oh, your kid is great, your kid's fantastic, he's going to do well. And, you know, and then you're paying for schools that, and in my case, I was just saying Catholic schools or other schools or private schools. You're paying all this money for your kids to go to these programs. And in reality, you know, the kid may not be, you know, a D1 talent next level, you know, but you spent a lot of time and money and investment and all these things at this age. And, it may not be there. That kid might potentially, like you say, may not want to go on to that next level because they're tired mentally, or whatever. Like anything could, their focus in life might have changed. They may not be interested in football like they might have been when they were like 14 or 15, and now you've paid and invested all this money, and then, come to find out, there's not going to be much else, after the fact, so there's a lot of misconceptions with football. You got to understand, like, the kid has to want to play football. Right. This is not something that's a game. It's not fun. It's not pretty. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for anybody. It's not any of those things. If this is something that you have to actually want to do, you cannot say, you get up and say, oh, I'm going to play, and then don't go out there and play, and then you wind up getting hurt or getting someone else hurt. So, it's hard. There's so many different, people don't tell the truth a lot of times about the kid as an athlete also. Or, they'll lead you on to believing this kid is like top 10 talent. And, and honestly, that may not be the case. And again, the competition gets heavier and heavier the higher they go. Yeah. So what you were great at today, down the line, somebody else might be better, and people lie to kids and tell them different things. And instead of just being truthful, just be honest, and that's always my main goal with anybody, any kid, anybody that I'm mentoring or any type of situation. Be honest. Just be honest. Tell a kid when they need improvement. Tell a kid when you feel like, hey, you're doing too much. Slow down on this. Do more focus on that. Be honest with these athletes. Don't lie to them and make them believe that they're going to be the next Shaquille O'Neal, and that they're not. Or they're going to be the next Tom Brady, and that they're not. They're not. That's just the reality of it. And this game, like they tell us in the beginning, there's only 1% that's going to make it. And that's true. Yeah. As I see it from the perspective of a mom. All this time I thought, oh, okay, no, they were just saying that because they just don't want you to work. You're not going to, they don't want you there. It's not the case. The case is that it's hard. It's really hard.
When do you have those conversations with your child on how do you know when it's like, this is what they want to do? How do you explain, or when do you give them enough information to make that decision to say, this is really, Mom, I get it. It's going to be hard. I got to, this and that. When
freshman year in college. Freshman year in college. Freshman year in college is the breaking year for most athletes.
Wouldn't you know beforehand, because you started your children out earlier than that? Because I know for me, when I put my kids in karate, I wanted them to try the sport out. They did it for a while, but then the signs when it's not for them, and they'll tell you. And although you want them to continue on, they say, "Oh, I don't want to do this," and then you try to get them to go on. So I think they know more, way beforehand, or even if you start them you start them in football early, young, the signs of whether or not they have the potential of becoming that player, or if it's just this is not for them. So I think as moms, that's or even dads, that is our like you say, follow your intuition of guiding your child where they need to go without hurting their feelings about it.
But it's not always the kids. Sometimes it's the parents that have ideals of grandeur, that their child is better than the rest of the people that are playing. Right. And it's really that's where the guidance comes in. Like, hey, son, daughter, whomever is the athlete, and going forward, you have to be conscious that you let them try it. But they'll let you know if they're passionate about it. But you have to have that open. You're going to have open communication, because unfortunately, sometimes parents could pressure kids into believing something, or fear of them coming to you being honest and say, you know what? When I tell you I travel with my daughter with her playing ball, I was all over the United States. She was playing in Alaska. Like, she was playing. So you know what I had to tell myself when she said she didn't want to do it no more? I had to have my silent cry alone, because I didn't want her to feel bad.
Right.
I had to slide down against the wall with my head in my lap by myself. Because the reality of it, when somebody said, "Why'd you let her do that?" Because I could not get on the court and perform for her.
Yeah.
So for me to make her feel like anything than who she is,
Yeah.
we have parents that do that.
Yeah.
We have spouses that, oh, you're no longer playing. I got no use for you. So the concept is make sure that your children know the reality of life.
Yeah.
And that they could trust you enough to come to you and be honest. Your spouse could come to you and say, "Babe, I'm so banged up right now. I don't want to do this no more. It's no longer fun. Help me come up with something that could keep us financially going." Or, "Mom, you know what? Do you know anything else that I might be good at that I just can't see for myself?" Because most of the time, athletes are going into college as what's that? The liberal arts, because they don't know what they want to do.
They don't know what
Right.
They don't know what they want to do after sports.
It could be a very expensive party, Yeah.
Well,
and that's the truth. It's like
Very expensive
you
party.
gotta. I mean, like honestly, by the time they graduated from high school, going into college that freshman year, that's when you're gonna know where their focus really is. Is this something that they really want to do, or is this something that, or is there some other other passion that they may want to follow? You know what I mean? Because I mean, that last year of high school, you're living off of the high of that last experience of, okay, this could be it, but now you got into this great college and you're able to continue on. And then you get there and it's like, this is not all exactly what I thought it was going to be. It's harder than what I expected. It's mentally harder. It's physically harder. These books are killing me, so, it's a whole lot that goes into play. So if you can make it out of that freshman year and you're still standing and you still love football, then I think you got a great football ahead of you.
That's good insight. I think that's great insight because to your point, there's a difference between high school where now it's college, you're becoming an adult. You're coming into your own, and independent at that point. So now you have to really hunker down and understand where you want your life's direction to go. And you can't, you can't just be wishy-washy about it because you don't have a lot of time in that career, in that football career, to make that call, right? You have a very finite period of time where you're going to continue or you're just going to decide this is not for me. And that's fine. And that's where I think we have to support, right, as parents. And to your point, Sherry, as a wife or whomever at that point in time, if you really are serious about that relationship or have that close relationship, you have to be honest and you have to support whatever that decision, whatever that journey is for that person, and don't make them feel bad about the decision they made, right? Because it's not your journey, it's their journey. And that's where I think, to your point, Sherry, a lot of parents make bad calls in relation to pushing their children to where they want them to be in relation to becoming an athlete and moving forward versus what they want to do. And they don't want to upset their parents. They don't want to disappoint their parents. So they may just choose it just because they don't want to upset you, and they don't want you to feel bad about it. You work so hard to take care of them and raise them and do right by them. And then all of a sudden you're saying, "No, Mom, I don't want to do this anymore."
You also parents that miss out on the opportunity, and so they want their kids to
Yeah. So ladies, I apologize. We are like literally about to shut down. So with that said, Jessica, just quick words from you. What is your kind of like your advice for folks as we kind of close off the show?
I think that like having that kind of balance where you can be 100% all in when you're on the field, but also have these other components to who you are, whether it's an athlete or a spouse, but having sort of balance in your life with the things that are important to you and giving it all to each of those places. But I do think, being able to see yourself sort of holistically in all that you can offer. So.
Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. I love the panel, the great questions. I think you gave us a lot of great insights from a mother aspect, from a wife aspect, just from a person aspect, and a lot of great support for those out there watching to understand what it takes. So I want to thank you all for joining us today on the Sistahship Talk Show. We hope to see you all back soon. Come and join us, continue on joining the show. Thank you. Good luck to everyone. To much success for your son, Michelle, as well. Have a great Sunday. Happy Super Bowl Sunday. And I don't care who you're voting for. Just enjoy the game today, Super Bowl Sunday. And we'll see you.
I got the Chiefs.
Yeah, you know I got
you.
You know I got the Buccaneers.
The Buccaneers.
Oh.
We got a split Kansas City.
Tom Brady all day, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Support each
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So we understand the power of a friendship, family, life on purpose. Together we can learn it. Yeah, let's